इसको थोड़ा सा एक्सपैंड करना है. Okay, good afternoon all of you and welcome to EduTap. Welcome to this ACE answer writing session part 2. This is the part 2 for ESI, that is economic and social issues, for phase 2 of your RBI Grade B examination. Before proceeding further, just let me know if the audio is clear to you and if you can see me and the screen properly. If everything is clear, then we'll proceed with the session. Let me know in the chat section. So yes, I'm waiting for your responses. All the top viewers, just send a thumbs up if the audio is clear to you and you can see the video. All right, Disha, welcome. All right, Disha. Okay, so we have some new viewers today here. N.E. Buni, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Kanchan. Good afternoon, Disha. G. All right, so are you all new viewers here? This is the 4th session for, let me make the screen clear for you. This is the 4th session for ACE answer writing RBI Grade B phase 2 examination. I hope the result of phase 1 examination was in your favor. And if there are any people in the audience who have not taken the exam and are preparing for the exam for next year, then this session is going to help you as well. And all of you, those who could not clear phase 1 examination, don't worry. You will see yourself in the final list. Just, take some break, pat yourself on the back and just keep going, keep moving towards your goal. All right, congratulations, Kanchan. All right, Disha, all right. So, okay, welcome to the live session if you've been seeing recorded videos. Okay, anybody, how can you get good marks in ESI writing? Follow our sessions. That's how you can get good marks in ESI writing. All right, Disha, don't worry. Just keep studying and keep learning answer writing with us. Follow our channel, subscribe to our channel. There are a lot of helpful videos out there, especially the live sessions, and you will sail through phase 2 as well. And congratulations for clearing phase 1, although it was unexpected for you. Congratulations. So yes. So see, for all of you out there, let me tell you, there is this crash course that we have launched for RBI Grade B phase 2 examination that is going to happen on the 30th. What we are offering here is that our aim is to make you 100% ready for phase 2 examination. So it is basically 2 parts to it. It has 2 parts to it. The first one is the live crash course and the second part is the test series. If you subscribe to our live crash course, what you get is you get test series for free here. So in the live crash course, you can interact with the teachers. In the one-to-one classes that you get, I'll be teaching there as well. There are subject experts for ESI, for finance and management, for other parts of the examination. For all parts, we've got subject experts. So they will be taking live classes with you through the Zoom sessions. And yes, it will include short notes. Short notes would be provided for you, which you can revise very easily. Not only this, mind maps would be given. Mind maps so that, you can remember what you're learning. Mind maps would be there. Current affairs, discussion on current affairs would be happening, and test series is free in this live crash course, and evaluation of test with the help of teachers that would be provided. If you feel that your knowledge is enough and you do not require any kind of live crash course, what you can do is you can purchase our standalone test series, and we are offering a 50% discount because the time that we have is very less. So 50% discount you can avail, and you can check the link for these both of these crash course and test series in the description. All right. So first of all the students here, who have been following this channel and you've been learning answer writing with me for the previous 4 sessions, first of all, understand you can write great answers even with the content, even with the knowledge that you have right now. I'm very sure it's of very good quality, it's a very good level. So first of all, have faith in yourself that you can write great answers. Now let's proceed. And yes, I need to share this plan with you. For the old students, they already know it, what the plan is like. So we started on July 14, that was Friday. We learned how to write answers, what should be the structure of a good answer. We started with introduction, moved on to learning the body part and conclusion. So till Tuesday, we were just discussing how should a good answer look like, what you have to see in the question to be able to answer it properly. So these were really important sessions. If you have not watched them, just go back after this session and watch them. Yesterday's session, the Wednesday session, was on economic and social issues. For economic and social issues, it has 4 parts in your syllabus. So we have ascribed four sessions for it. Rest of the days, starting from next Monday, would be for finance, 2 days for finance, and rest of the 3 days for management. And the timing for these sessions, for these live sessions on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, is going to be 3 p.m. every day. And it's not just, one-sided sessions. I'll not be teaching here, I'll not be teaching anything new. What I will be doing is extracting answers out of you through the interactions you carry forward with me in the chat section, in the live chat. All right, so that's how we proceed further. So yes, this is your pattern of the syllabus, if I have to say that. So in your pattern, we are covering this economic and social issues part. The objective part is being taken by Kritika ma'am, and the descriptive portion, where you will have to attempt 4 questions out of 6, that is being taken by me. So you'll have to answer 4 questions in ESI. Just give me 1 minute. Yes. Okay. See, we live in really good times where, we can interact with the help of technology, but technology is not always loyal. So some things can go wrong at times. Yes. See here, I think, yeah. I think it's working fine now. Okay, just, bear with me, bear with me for a while. All right, we are back to the slide that we wanted. I'm really sorry for this disruption. It won't happen again. All right. Okay, for all the live views, just give me a minute. I think we've got some problem with the screen. It's changing, the slide is changing on its own. Just give me 30 seconds and we'll get this sorted for you. All right. So yes, I think we're sorted here. I'm really sorry for the disruption. The screen was hanging for some reason. So yes, all of you here. So what we were discussing is that we are taking this descriptive part of the syllabus. Out of the 6 questions, you'll have to attempt 4 within 90 minutes, and they will award you 50 marks for all these 4 questions. Now, moving on to the next slide, basically. live practice to apply what you learn. Basically, as I told you, you'll be typing your answers or parts of the answers or some prompts at least, if not the full answer, in the chat section there. And from there, I will, construct the answer. That's how it goes on. So for today, we have Indian economy, part of the syllabus. So your Indian economy consists of 11 topics. Economic history of India, changes in industrial and labor policy, monetary and fiscal policy, since reforms of 1991, priorities and recommendations of economic survey and union budget, Indian money and financial markets, linkages with the economy, role of Indian banks and RBI in the development process, and public finance, political economy, industrial developments in India, Indian agriculture and services sector in India. So see, these are broad 11 topics. Out of these, there are many of the topics from which RBI has never asked any question in your descriptive part of the syllabus. For example, the service sector, we've not seen a lot of questions from here. Agriculture has seen a lot of questions in other paper as well as your phase 1. So we'll be covering one question from agriculture. Apart from that, role of Indian banks in RBI and monetary and fiscal policy, we have assimilated these two topics. So one of the topics would be covered from here. So these changes in industrial and labor policy, economic history of India, they've not seen, we've not seen any questions coming from these parts. So what we'll do is today, it's not 4 questions that we are taking, it's just 2 questions we are taking, so that the session remains short, we are able to deliver more, and you're able to understand basically how you need to approach your answers. So since the screen is moving on its own, we've always taught you the 4-step approach. The 4-step approach for answering any questions that appear on phase 2 part of the syllabus. So in your phase 2 part, the first one is finding keywords and qualifying words. Keywords and qualifying words. Keywords are your topics and qualifying words, they are your opinion words that the examiner holds. Women empowerment is important. So women empowerment is your keyword. Important is your qualifying word. That is, the examiner feels, the examiner has an opinion that something is important. So important becomes opinion of the examiner. The second one is recognize the directives, whether the question is asking you to agree or to disagree, to take a stand or to give a balanced approach, justify the answer, discuss the answer, explain the question, anything like that. The third one and most important here is framing micro questions so that you can address all parts of the question in the order in which they appear on your paper. Then writing a structured answer, introduction, body and conclusion. A formal structure is given for all the answers. In our mock sessions also you'll see that we have a structure for all the answers. So you will understand that what differentiates a person who sails through phase 2 or who makes it to the final list from a person who doesn't practice at all, just keeps studying and is stuck at phase 2 for many years. So this is something that will be made clear through the structure. I'm sure you will appreciate that a lot and you will incorporate it in your answers as well. So this is the blueprint, answer blueprint. It starts with the sample question, then we write an introduction that focuses on the topic or theme, then we have the subheading 1 and 2 or 3 and 4, as many body parts as you want to write, and then we move on to the concluding part. The entire presentation that we discuss here will be available in the PDF format on our Telegram channel after a few minutes of this discussion. So once this discussion is done, you can basically download that PDF. You do not have to write anything. What you have to do here is that as I display the questions, participate more and more, because that will, when you participate in the session, what you're doing is you're basically, asking your brain to think more. You're thinking more, and thinking is very much needed for good answer writing. You're not ready to write your first word until you're finished thinking. So yes, let's begin writing our answers and let's see what are the 2 questions that I have shortlisted for you today. And these questions that we are taking in these sessions, these are just important questions. So you might see these questions appearing in phase 2 as it is. That is, because we are going back to current affairs, we are doing a lot of research in shortlisting these questions. So yes, just see, look at the first question. Monetary measures have failed to control inflation in India. Explain. For 400 words, and it will award you 10 marks. I'm sure all of you who have been preparing for any of the examinations in which economy is a part, this question is one of the most popular questions. And it is not just a most popular question, it is one of the biggest debates all around the world. Yesterday we took one question with regards to GDP, that GDP is not a very good economic indicator. It does not indicate welfare of people. And today we are saying that yes, monetary policy does exist, but it has failed to control inflation in India. Explain. The second question is, PDS is playing a crucial part in food economy. However, there are certain lacunae in it. Discuss. Enumerate the steps taken by government to address the same. Answer it for 600 words, that is 15 marks. As you can see, your 600 words questions, they tend to be longer, or they have like at least 2 questions in one of the question itself. So that's why you can expand them further. All right. Yes, yes, Tisha, you have to write in the live chat only. Yes, Kanchan, our mind maps are very much useful. And congratulations on purchasing the RBI crash course. All right. So let's move ahead. You'll be typing in the chat box itself. So let's focus on question number 1. All right. And see, there are few things that you need to understand. I have displayed the question on the screen. Monetary measures have failed to control inflation in India. Explain. Do you see what is the directive here? First of all, let me know in the chat section, what is the directive? Yes, Disha, yes, Kanchan. What is the directive for this question? Monetary measures have failed to control inflation in India. Explain and write your answer in 400 words for 10 marks. Can you identify the directive? Failure of monetary measures. Disha, that is the micro question here. That is the actual question here. I'm just asking you for the directive. Directive is basically this part of your question. If I'm asking you to explain something or discuss something, that is your directive here. Yes, yes, Rohit, that explanation is fine. So see, explain is your directive. And what do we mean by explain? Basically, when somebody says that you have to, Disha, please go back after this session, just go back to the first session that we took on introduction. And that will tell you what is directive. Had it been in place of explain, if I would have written justify or discuss or examine or analyze, then that would have been directives. That is what we call the directives, okay? So yes, explain is the directive here. That means you do not have to take a stand. The examiner is not asking you to agree or disagree. The examiner is just asking you explain the statement. And when you have to explain the statement, that means you have to speak in favor of what is written. Am I clear? Monetary measures have failed to control inflation in India. Explain. Explain what do you mean by this statement. Not justify, do not discuss it, do not write both sides of the debate, just explain the statement as it is. All right? And do you see any negative words in the question? Yes, Kanchan, that's absolutely right. Do you see any negative words in the question? Can you see any? Yes, failed is a negative word. And who failed basically? Monetary measures. Who is implementing the monetary measures? The Monetary Policy Committee or, RBI officers basically. So basically this question is criticizing whom? Whose measures or whose steps are being called failed? RBI officers. So can you criticize RBI in your exam? Can you use the word failed for RBI in your exam? Can you use the word failed for monetary policy in your exam? You cannot use it. So here is the catch. That's why we understand our question. Nowhere in your answer will you use the word failed. Okay. You will just highlight the loopholes in a very diplomatic manner. You will not use the word failed either in your introduction or in your conclusion. Do not say that the following are the reasons because of which monetary measures have failed. All right. So we'll choose our words. We will be very eloquent with our language, but we'll also choose our words very wisely. You will see such negative words on the paper, or for example against the government, but you have to be very wise with the selection of words. All right, so give me the micro question. What is the actual question, or what is the micro question here? What will be our question for the body part? What is the meaning of this question? What is the micro question here? Okay, I'll write my micro question on the board. Meanwhile, you write your micro question in the chat section. Is that right? Why monetary measures are not sufficient in themselves to control inflation? Is that the meaning of our question? Yes, explain is another question. Yes. What ways MPC lagged, or why MPC policy and decision didn't work in Indian economy at the situation prevailing? Also, always remember, yes Tisha, that is the right explanation. Always remember that they're not asking you the direct loopholes in MPC, Monetary Policy Committee. They're asking you why monetary measures have not been able to control inflation. So you have to talk with respect to inflation only. And just tell me, just a warm-up exercise, how is inflation measured in our country? What is the index for which inflation is measured in the country? Which index is used to measure inflation in the country? Let me know in the chat section which measure is used to measure inflation in the country. Yes, Disha, that is right. It's the CPI, Consumer Price Index. Yes, by NSO, MOSPI, Government of India. So it is the Consumer Price Index. So there is some problem with Consumer Price Index, that monetary measures are not able to impact it, or able to control it. All right. So let's see how we'll be approaching this answer. Whenever we write our answers, where do we start? We start with an introduction. And in introduction, what do we do? Tip number 1, make the question feel important. Make the question appear important. For that, what you do? You talk about the topic, talk about the keywords given in the question. So monetary measures have failed to control inflation in India. So how is inflation controlled in India? Or what are the methods? So what is the process by which inflation is controlled or targeted in India? If you have been following current affairs, so do you know that we follow an inflation targeting approach since 2016? In 2016, your RBI Act was amended, and Monetary Policy Committee was formed to control inflation in India. So can I talk about it? That India uses an inflation targeting approach to control, to keep a tap on inflation. And who decides the target for inflation? The government decides the target for inflation. And MPC is responsible to keep the inflation in that boundary, 2 to 6%. All right. So if it goes less than that or more than that, then for 3 quarters, then MPC has to give a report to the government. All right. So can we write about this information in our introduction? Or how will you, what are other ways to begin your introduction? How can you make the question feel important? How can you talk about topics in the report, topics in the introduction? So yes, let's have a look at our introduction. India follows a flexible inflation targeting framework since 2016. That's how we are talking. We are talking about how inflation is addressed in our country. We follow a flexible inflation targeting framework, and since 2016. Under the new statutory framework, why are we calling it statutory? Because it has been brought in by a law. What was the law? Amended RBI Act. Under the new statutory framework, the central government, in consultation with RBI, sets an inflation target based on CPI once every 5 years. So have I conveyed all the information regarding inflation in my country in these 2 lines? Have I justified all the information that how is it targeted, who decides the target for inflation, and what measure is used, CPI is used. So basically in 2 lines you have to give the broad framework. How is inflation measured in India? The RBI is entrusted with the responsibility of meeting this target, for which it is given independence in the conduct of monetary policy. What we are saying here, that the government does not intervene in monetary policy. Alright, it's the mandate of RBI. Hence, price stability is the primary objective of monetary policy. Consumer Price Index, CPI, that is the anchor. Anchor means something that holds you there. You cannot go beyond something that holds you there. It reflects, it basically tells you what is the kind of inflation, what is the level of inflation. And MPC, Monetary Policy Committee, is the institutional framework to set policy rate to achieve the inflation target. What is your policy rate here? What are we talking about? We are talking about the repo rate. MPC sets up the repo rate to achieve inflation target. Basically, we talked about how inflation is targeted in India. There is a flexible approach. Who sets the inflation target? Who is responsible for achieving this target or maintaining this target? And how is it maintained? How is it maintained? It is maintained using the policy rate or repo rate. So everything regarding the topic, everything regarding the question has been talked. Yes, that's right, Kanchan. So everything regarding the question has been talked. So you've given a very valid introduction. You've told the examiner that this is what is going on in India. But then what are the loopholes? What are the loopholes? So however, monetary measures have not always been a panacea to control inflation in the country. Can I write that monetary measures have failed to control inflation in the country? I cannot write that. However, monetary measures have not always been a panacea to control inflation in the country. This is because of the following reasons. Yes, Rohit, you can start with the current inflation data as well. And you can also explain that our target for this inflation, it was not beyond 6%, it was 2 to 6%. So the following can be the reasons for which MPC has not been able to keep up within the limits of inflation. You can't do that, but make sure that you are making the details, these details. You'll be talking about CPI later. What are the loopholes in CPI? You'll be talking about Monetary Policy Committee later. You'll be talking about all these things. So give this information as raw material or as fodder in the introduction itself. All right. Back-to-back global disruptions. Yes, Disha, that is the right answer. So here when I use my linkage point, what is this? The last line of your introduction is going to be LP. What is LP? Linkage point. The last line of your introduction will give a way for body paragraph. It will introduce your body paragraph. So however, monetary measures have not always been a panacea. Just look at this. I'm not writing monetary measures have failed to control inflation. I'm writing they've not always been a panacea to control inflation in the country. This is because of the following reasons. Now give me the reasons in the chat section why monetary measures have not been able to control inflation. The first one has come from Disha. Back-to-back global disruptions have occurred. Now Disha, you will have to explain this point. Back-to-back global disruptions. What do you understand by back-to-back global disruptions? What can you write in this point? And can't the effect of global disruptions be controlled by Monetary Policy Committee with the help of repo rate? Or can't RBI control the effect of global disruptions? Supply side constraints. Yes, Kunal, supply side constraints. Supply side constraints. And what are these supply side constraints? Lot of liquidity injected during pandemic. Okay, we can ascribe. Can we call this global disruption? Pandemic was a global disruption. Yes, Disha. Other points coming in. The first point is global disruptions, which are outside the control of RBI or outside the ambit of Monetary Policy Committee. MPC can just control repo rate. Alright. It cannot control the prices of fuel. It cannot control other prices. Alright, then we have supply side constraints. Logistics, price of raw materials, they increase. Yes. Yes, Rohit, global turmoil, war, federal rate hike. War and oil price hike. That's coming from Sorish Nandi. Alright, food supply chain disruption. Alright, these all points are valid. Evident from wholesale price index. Alright, so in our introduction, we told that what is the anchor for controlling inflation, how we measure inflation in our country. Yes, Jacqueline is here. Rise in global commodity prices because of Ukraine-Russia war. Due to COVID-19, there has been disruptions. Yes, everything we'll write in first point, global disruptions. Food constituting 46% in CPI basket. Very important, Rohit. OPEC limiting barrels. N is typing. Yes, that is, that has shooted the prices of food up. Yes, Disha, I'll come back to this. Climate crisis, yes. Now, okay, let's start with the basic. How do we define inflation in India? How do we measure inflation in India? We measure it using consumer price index. We measure it using CPI, that is consumer price index. In your consumer price index, what is the percentage of food? Food and beverages. What is the percentage of food and beverages? Let me know in the chat section, what is the percentage of food and beverages? Rohit has already written, it's around 46%. So if my food prices are going up because petrol prices have gone up or diesel prices have gone up. Why they have gone up? Because Russia has launched a war on Ukraine. So food prices go up because lot of transportation is required. Transportation cost has increased. Or we are importing a lot of food products. For example, oil seeds, they are being imported. So their price has gone up. So does it impact the inflation in my country? It does. It impacts the inflation in my country. It impacts the inflation in our country. Food prices. Now this definition, this constituent, this percentage of food and beverages in your CPI, that is very high. That is very high and RBI cannot control it by changing the repo rate. Because with the repo rate, what can we change? We can change the interest on loans. We can see how much lending happens in your economy. But food is being consumed by everybody. Food and beverage is consumed by everybody. Fuel is also consumed by everybody. So you cannot control that. So it is basically, it is not a failure of monetary policy. It is very much outside the control of monetary policy. Yes, I'm coming back to those points. First point, we'll talk about global disruptions as well. I'll talk about all the points that you have given me there. First of all, high weight of food and beverage items in CPI. Look at this point. Food and beverage items have a combined 45.86 weight, 45.86% weight in the overall CPI. This makes inflation less amenable to control through repo interest rate or cash reserve ratio hikes. These are your monetary policy tools. So because food constitutes a major portion of CPI, this portion cannot be controlled by any monetary policy tools. The RBI then is forced to rely, then how do we control? Let's say if agriculture is not, if monsoon is not favorable in your country in one particular year and there is not oil seeds or pulses are not available in the market. Right now what we see, tomato prices have gone up. Tomato prices have gone up, that's why your CPI has gone up. Alright, so if food prices rise in the country, Then who can control the food prices? RBI cannot control. Who can bring them down? Government brings them down. By importing food from other countries, by importing pulses, tomatoes from other countries, onions from other countries. Alright, so government intervention, monetary policy has not failed. It is outside the ambit of monetary policy. So then RBI is forced to rely more on government action to meet inflation targets. So RBI and government, they have RBI officers and government officers, they have meetings with them that we need to keep inflation up to 6%. So please control the prices of food grains or tomatoes or onions in the country. Alright. Then you have supply side factors. What are supply side factors? All the global disruptions, your Russia-Ukraine war, prices of oil seeds went up, prices of crude oil, they went up. These are your supply side factors which are outside the control of RBI. The last two years saw a resurgence of inflation. Why has inflation gone so much high in the last 2 years? Because we were seeing the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Supply chain disruptions were there. Supply chain disruptions were already there due to the pandemic. Then they were increased or amplified because of this Russia-Ukraine war. And who was at the receiving end? India. So these were driven mainly by supply side factors. The pandemic, one. The war in Ukraine, second. Extreme weather events, droughts, floods, tropical cyclones in all the coastal states which actually cultivate rice and other and products like jute and food, sugarcane. So all these extreme weather events, right now also, in this month itself, floods have been seen in so many parts of the country, especially North India. Infrastructure has fallen. So extreme weather events, these are all supply side factors. These factors along with skyrocketing prices of fuel, very important, talk about fuel here, which have a 6.84% weight. Your food is 45.86%, fuel is 6.84%. In CPI, they have rendered the RBI's demand side toolkit to fight inflation ineffective. What is the toolkit that we are talking here? What is RBI's toolkit to fight inflation? It is your monetary policy tools. Monetary policy tools, repo rate, CRR, SLR. So your toolkit that has been rendered ineffective. All right. More points. Disha, I would, okay, so Disha is writing that can we make separate point for natural calamities? Disha, that depends on the structure of your answer. So what we are doing is, we are writing one heading and we are mentioning 2-3 points under each heading in the form of a paragraph. Do you see this? Here we are mentioning 2 to 3 points under every heading. So either you can use this approach or these two headings, they can be separated and you can write 5 to 6 points instead of writing these two headings only. First point can be about weight of food in CPI. Second, weight of fuel in CPI. Fuel has gone up because of the Russia-Ukraine war. Third, talk about the climate crisis or natural disasters. Then it can be a separate point. But when you're using titles or themes, then you need to have some fodder to write there as well. The third and most important one, and this is also the most, ancient point that I would say with this topic. Inadequate transmission of monetary policy. The Monetary Policy Committee, it does change the repo rate from time to time, but it is not seen. It is not felt by consumers. It is not felt by normal citizens of the country. Why repo rate is not transmitted? The aim of repo rate is to control liquidity in the economy, to control the amount of cash or the amount of money that people have. That is the aim of repo rate. Repo rate actually motivates the banks. If repo rate is increased, what happens? The rate on your FD, that goes up. The rate on your savings account, that goes up. So what will you try? You will try that you should not be spending a lot. You should be saving your money because the returns are very good. Then the rate of loans also goes up if repo rate is increased. Since the rate of loans, it goes up. So people do not want to take a lot of loans. Hence, money in the market that decreases, because people who had money, they put it in banks because high rates are there, and people who wanted loans, they wait for that time. They do not take loans because interest rates are very high on loans. So now what happens? Your interest rates, they are raised to control inflation. So that cost of borrowing rises and the incentive to save and invest rather than consume increases due to better yields. So it becomes more expensive to consume rather than save for the future as interest rates are higher. So people save. Therefore, the demand for goods, it goes down because now I have put all my money in an FD. Now the demand for goods, that will go down because I do not have money to spend or to buy things, because all my money is with bank, it is safe. So demand decreases, and hence prices of goods, they also go down. You see a lot of sales around. All right, hence inflation also comes down. The prices of goods and services, that comes down. Now why? Now this is a very ideal situation, but this does not happen on ground. Why? First of all, there is a large chunk of informal economy in our country. We deal in cash, we have our savings not with banks. We do not have a lot of money with the banks. We have our own cash flowing. Plus, for taking loans, most of the people, they're not dependent on banks. They rely on money lenders. Who are not impacted by repo rate changes. Second, decreasing deposits with banks. If you have been following the deposit rate of banks since 2016, the deposits with banks, they have gone down. What banks do? They take your money, they give you some interest on that, and they lend that money in the form of loans at a higher rate to somebody else. So if the banks have lesser deposits, these are going down, then the banks cannot give loans. So what they do is, they keep the interest rates already very high on loans. Third, policy rates are not linked to market. Let's say I get 7% interest on my FD, but the rate of gold is rising, it is multiplying. Will I invest in my FD or will I invest in gold? Tell me. Anybody who's getting a very good interest rate in FD, but she is getting more return on investing in gold, on buying gold. So will he or she invest in FD? Will he or she put money in an FD or in gold? Obviously gold. So can you control people's choices? And people's choices rule markets. You cannot control. So repo rate doesn't have an effect there. And in countries like India, we do invest a lot in gold as compared to the amount of money we keep in FDs. Right or not? So these are policy rates, or repo rate is not linked to the markets. Finally, the effect of non-performing assets. Non-performing assets, yes, they were a big problem. The government has handled them, but ultimately at the end of it, in the long run also, the banks are paying for it. All right. So yes, let's write about these points. Now look at body paragraph. First 2 points we explained like that in paragraph format. In the third point, we found that we have 4 different points to write. Expand on this third paragraph. Expand on this third point. All right, because you have a lot to write on them. Otherwise, what you could do, instead of this 1 point, write 2 points for this, 3 points for this, for all the information. And these 4 could be separate points. So you can write 7 to 10 points, or just write 3 headings, 3 major headings, and explain everything under them. Both the approaches, they are right. So let's start with informal economy. Informal economy, it is characterized by money lenders. This economy stays much outside the control of monetary policy tools. Monetary policy tools cannot control this. Secondly, decreasing deposits with banks. This I've told you, the deposits with banks, they are decreasing. Third, policy rates, they're not linked to market. If the value of rupee is falling, I don't care then that whether my FD will give me a 7% return. What I want is I should invest somewhere whose value is increasing. So value of rupee has fallen in the past few years. So people are not getting very much return, even due to high interest rate, even after high interest rate. So people invest in gold here. Then you have high NPAs, high non-performing assets. The accumulation of large NPAs has reduced the profitability of banks. So due to this, banks feel constrained to transfer the benefits of changes in repo rates to consumers. Do you have any more points to add here to the body parts? Any new points to add here? All of you, any one of you? Anything that you've not that has not been covered in the answer? PSU. Suraj, what do you mean by PSU? Like, what do you imply by saying PSU here? Widening current account deficit. See, widening current account deficit, it does not have a direct implication. Like, how will you include it here? Sorry, just explain it a little more. Suraj, non-profit assistance, yes, Suraj. Can we use bold words in exam? Bold words, you might not have the option, but if you have them, then definitely use them. You might have the option to underline. Currency depreciation. Yes, because of currency depreciation, people lose faith in money. People buy land, they acquire property, they buy gold, or they leave the country. Yes, Disha, can we include this in supply side factors? Can we include this as a point in supply side factors? India's extreme dependence on imports. We'll call it a supply side factor. All right. Currency depreciation, Kanchan, that's very right. All right. So now how will you conclude this answer? How will you conclude this answer? Let me take you to the question back. Monetary policy, monetary measures have failed to control inflation in India. Explain. So we explained that how monetary policy has not been able to control inflation in India. We have not used the word fail, but we have explained that how monetary policy is not very effective in controlling inflation. So will you give a way forward, or will you summarize all the points? What will you do here? Will you give a way forward, or will you summarize all the points? Let me know in the chat section. A way forward or a summary in the conclusion. See, whenever you see questions which talk about some problem, whenever the question is talking about some problem, give a way forward there. Give a solution there. When the question is talking about objectives of the scheme, appreciate the government there. If the question is about talking about some scheme of government, some recent initiatives of government, yesterday we talked about green economy and the efforts that the government has made towards achieving green economy or green growth. So there you had to appreciate the government in conclusion that yes, because of all these efforts, India is moving towards achieving sustainable development goals. Alright, but whenever a question has a problem in it, always give a way forward, always give a solution, give an intelligent solution. Alright, and never use the word must. Never use the word must towards any government body in your conclusions. Alright, so let's see. Kanchan and Rohit, if you feel that you can summarize, then just give me a summary of just give me a conclusion that has summary. Let me know in the chat section. By that time, I'll display the conclusion here. So yes, again we are talking. Yes, Rohit, hello. The inflation targeting approach adopted since 2016. Whenever monetary policy or inflation is talked about, talk about this inflation targeting approach. The inflation targeting approach adopted since 2016 has kept inflation in control and in predictable range. This is what we are talking about. Since 2016, it was in control and in predictable range, but the above factors, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, put the situation beyond the scope of monetary measures. Alright, Monetary Policy Committee used to announce its stance that will we increase repo rate in the coming times or will we decrease it or will it be kept stable. So investor confidence that was increased in past few years because of this approach, inflation targeting. But COVID and the pandemic, and the Russia-Ukraine war, it devastated everything for developing countries like India. Otherwise, everything was going very fine. Inflation was very much in control since 2016 or at least 2017. on average. So appreciate monetary measures, appreciate the monetary policy committee, then give a way forward. That yes, good things were happening. More or less inflation was in control and in predictable range. But the above factors, especially after COVID-19 pandemic, put the situation beyond the scope of monetary measures. Finally, it has been reiterated by experts that the inflation battle cannot be won by central bank without the government. So not just monetary measures, fiscal policy measures also have to move hand in hand to control inflation. That is a way forward. Our finance minister in the budget speech, she said the same thing. She has been reiterating it again and again that monetary policy tools, they are not enough to control inflation. Fiscal policy measures. Who takes your fiscal policy measures? Government, central government. Importing crude oil from Russia. That was a fiscal policy measure because Russia was sending us on a cheaper rate to control petrol prices in your country. It was imported from Russia. Then importing pulses and vegetables from other countries. These are fiscal policy measures. So good management of economy. First of all, management, addressing supply side constraints, timely and periodic response to developments on ground, managing input prices, logistics and infrastructure, and a steady supply of food and perishables, because these form 46% of CPI, are among factors that need to be addressed. So that's your way forward. That's also your summary. Yes, Disha, that can be written. That can be written. That is going to be a very good answer. And after that, just write down that what can be the way forward. You can also quote the finance minister here that as she said that as our finance minister has reiterated time and again that monetary policy or monetary measures have to move hand in hand with fiscal policy measures. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Kanchan, that is also a very good response. Very good response, but again, talk about the fiscal policy, why that is a way forward. All right. Suraj, that is something you should prepare for your objective part of ESI and finance and management. Or follow our objective discussions that are being taken by Kritika ma'am. I cannot write down the exact 54% distribution right now. Yes, Jackin, that is a very good response. All right. So this was an easy one, easy question. See, even if you watch these discussions, your brain will be tuned in a way that you will be writing just perfect answers. If you feel that, okay, you're not able to understand, just watch the discussion. After the discussion, download the PDF and read the answers. Read the answers. Read good answers. If you read good material, only then you will be able to write good answers. Now let's move on to the next question. Yes, Jackin, I read it earlier. That's a very good response. Vital in crafting a well-rounded plan. Very good. Finally, moving on. All right, Akash Tyagi. Akash, you just have to give a general way forward. You're not writing something against RBI or in favor of government. You're just talking what will be favorable for our country. And this is already happening. That not just monetary measures, your fiscal policy is also moving in tandem. Your initiatives by government, they are also having a role in affecting inflation. And that's not always a positive role. We've talked only about positive role here. In the past, it was negative also at times. So you're not writing in favor of government or RBI, you're talking about something that will be favorable for the country. So let's move on to the second question. And this is very easy one. This question was asked in your NABARD Grade A examination, descriptive part that was held recently. And all of you preparing for RBI Grade B Phase 2 examination, agriculture has been given a lot of importance in Phase 1. So prepare agriculture very well. Lay more focus on it. PDS is playing crucial part in food economy. PDS is public distribution system. The availability of subsidized ration or food grains to rural and urban population. However, there are certain lacunae in it. Discuss. Discuss. Enumerate the steps taken by government to address the same. Alright. So basically, PDS is playing crucial part in food economy. If any statement is given to you straightforward, use this statement to write your intro. In your intro, you do not have to do anything else. Just talk about this statement. That what is PDS? Why is it crucial? How many people it has helped? Alright, how many people it has reached? And what are the statutory measures or any legislations that are involved behind PDS? Alright, so your intro becomes very easy when some statement is given. Come to the second part of question. However, there are certain lacunae in it. Discuss. This is your certain lacunae. This will form your body part 1. Talk about the loopholes in PDS. Talk about the problems with PDS. Then enumerate the steps taken by government to address the same. Steps taken by government to address the same. This will form your body part 2. Then give a conclusion. In the conclusion, either summarize these two parts, alright, or give a solution. Alright. So that's how we'll proceed. Then what information do you know about PDS? What should we be writing about in our introduction? Your introduction can include data, it can include quotes, it can include definitions. So what kind of introduction are you going to write here? Will you write some data? Will you write some quote? Will you write some example? Or will you write a definition? Let me know in the chat section. Definition. Yes, Sarish, definition of PDS, public distribution system. Alright. Anyone else? Will you write some data? Do you know any data with regards to PDS? Yes, Kanchan, very good. Definition with data. How much population is PDS catering to? 75%. Kunal Gupta, data. Data also. Plus data. Yes, Saurabh, that's right. Sarish, I'm sorry. Yes. We will write recent scheme of PMGKY. Alright, Amit. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. PDS data with some explanation. 80 crore beneficiaries. That's very important data. It is the recent data that we have that 80 crore people have benefited in PDS. How much coverage does PDS have in rural areas and how much coverage in urban areas? Is it 50-50? Or is it more in rural areas? And what is the act through which your PDS is being provided? Public distribution system is active with the help of which act? See, any resource, any kind of money that cannot reach to citizens of the country unless it is backed by some legislation. So some act would be there. Some act would be there behind running PDS or public distribution system. What is that act? What is the name of that act? 75 and 60, sorry, yes, 75% and 60%, rural and urban. Give me the exact data. Yes, Amit, that's right. NFSA, National Food Security Act of 2013. So whenever you have to talk about PDS, you have to mention that it is National Food Security Act of 2013 that is providing PDS all over the country. Alright, so let's write a good introduction for it. And then let's see how can we move ahead. Introduction. Read it with me. The public distribution system, PDS, is the food security system established under Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. You can choose to write it, the ministry, or you can choose to avoid it. Up to you. Now what you can do is, PDS was introduced around World War II. We are talking about history. as a wartime rationing measure, but it has evolved into a universal scheme for the distribution of subsidized food. With the legislation of National Food Security Act 2013, which provides right to food, very important here. Food is not a gift that the government is providing to you. You have right to food, right to healthy food as a legal entitlement. Everybody has the right towards healthy food. If he is born, if she is a citizen of India. Legal entitlement by providing subsidized food grains to nearly 2/3 of the population. Your 2/3 is 75% of population. PDS has expanded exponentially since that time. Now moving on to the next line. There are 3 basic objectives of PDS or public distribution system in India. So basically we are expanding on PDS here. First of all, provide essential food grains. All food grains cannot be provided by any government according to choice of people. So essential food grains at cheap and subsidized prices so that all people can buy them. To the consumers, to insulate them from the impact of rising prices of these commodities. The price of real estate, housing, cars, everything could be rising, but food should be available for everybody. To maintain a buffer stock, to meet any exigencies in food production. COVID-19 pandemic happened, but food grains were available in abundance, even with the poor people, even in far-flung areas of the country. So yes, third, maintaining the minimum nutritional status of our population. So the purpose of PDS is not just to fill stomachs of people. It is also to meet the minimum nutritional status. How do we measure the nutritional status of the country? Is there some report on which India has been performing badly? Is there some index on which India has been performing badly or in a good way? How do we measure nutrition in the country? Or is there any act that is running for nutrition in the country? All right. So this introduction that explains your hunger index. Yes. Global hunger index. That includes malnutrition, stunting. All these 4 factors are included, and India has not performed well on those. So basically, here you will get one of the loopholes of PDS, that India has performed badly on global hunger index. Nutritional deficiency exists in our population. Either our population is undernourished or it is obese. We are also like leading the countries in terms of obese people with diabetes or obesity. So yes. Okay. Now let's talk about the lacunae. Moving on to body paragraph 1. What are the lacunae in PDS? First one I have given you. There are nutritional deficiencies in PDS. Nutritional deficiencies. Only basic food grains are provided. What are the lacunae? What are the other lacunae in PDS, public distribution system? What are the other problems with PDS? Transmission loss. How is, explain this a little bit more, Sarish. Transmission loss. Leakages are there. That's right. From the buffer stock or from this godown, good quality rice and wheat is packed in a truck and it is sent to a fair price shop, FPA shop. But on the way, what happens? Some people get in, they exchange that truck with low quality food grains and they take the high quality food grains with them and then sell them in the market at a high rate. So these are leakages. Adequate amount or adequate quality of food grains is not available. Let's say you're getting 5 kg of rice. If that rice is not edible, what is the purpose of that 5 kg? So that is because of leakages in the system. Quality exchange in between, that is right. Logistics are problem. Yes, every year food grains are rotting down in our FCI godowns. Post-harvest management, that's not right. Corruption, management, storage. Yes, leakages are there. Aadhaar linkage has happened, but not many people. Most of the people did not have documents. So we could see a lot of headlines coming in that people could not get food grains from a fair price shop because they did not have Aadhaar or the requisite documents. While there are many people who are making millions and millions a year or many a times in a month as well, but they have got their BPL ration cards. Alright, so they are able to avail that subsidized food. Yes, inadequate identification of target groups. That is right. Now let's write down the points. What are the lacunae in PDS? So we'll be writing a summary. You can add points from the chat section which other people are posting, and you can send more points in the chat section as well. First of all, inaccurate identification of households. People who are rich, they are identified as eligible for PDS. But people who are poor because of lack of documents or because of not having good contacts with the officers who are responsible for giving them ration cards, they are not able to avail subsidized food grains. So presence of inclusion of wrong people, and exclusion errors, exclusion of the right people in identification of beneficiaries. Second, leakages in the delivery system. This is something that all of you have written, leakages in the delivery system. Now just look at this. Again, I have given some theme. I have defined it in front. Alright, since RBI exam might not give you the option of putting things in bold, what you can do is every point give a theme if you can. Do not feel lost there if you cannot give a theme to your answers. Give a theme, then explain that theme. If the themes are, let's say, 7, 8 in number, or if your answer has a second part too, give 5, 6 themes only. Or give one line if your themes are very much. In the previous question, we just had 3 themes. So we explained them in long paragraphs. Here we have a lot of themes. So we are explaining them in one-liners only. Leakages in delivery system. This takes place during transportation of food grains to ration shops and from there to the open market. Financially inefficient. The center bears a large financial burden of food subsidy as the cost of procuring and delivering food grains is about 6 times its sales price. So basically, this was, this has been asked by multiple exams previously as well. That more than the price of food grains is the central government's cost of provision of food grains, the transportation, the storage, the warehouses. Finally, shortfall in storage capacity, which leads to rotting of food grains. Lack of crop diversification. Lack of crop diversification means what are the food grains available? Wheat, pulses, rice, millets are available somewhere. At some places they are not available. Though they are counted in PDS, but they are not available at most of the places. So what we have? People do not have access to fiber or protein-rich food. So what happens? There is nutritional deficiency because of lack of crop diversification. MSP for millets is not announced. For wheat and rice, it is announced every season. So farmers do not cultivate other things, other food products, food grains. The provision of MSP has encouraged farmers to divert land from production of coarse grains that are millets, which were consumed by poor, to rice and wheat, and thus discourage crop diversification. So it has, first of all, nutritional deficiencies. Second, because of lack of crop diversification, your agriculture is not sustainable. So why agriculture in India is not sustainable? Because of this PDS system. Because PDS does not support sustainable agriculture. Then you have environmental issues. Overemphasis on attaining self-sufficiency and surplus in food grains, which are water intensive. Rice has been found to be environmentally unsustainable. Yes, wastages are there. You can talk about lack of documents with poor people. That's also there. Yes, Kanchan, we can add it there. Third point, a lacuna of PDS, as it was mainly brought to provide right to food, not for profit making by selling grains. See, we are just talking about one of the lacunae. Probably, let's say, if we had a better practice than PDS, कुछ ज़्यादा हमारे पास efficient होता, तो शायद गवर्नमेंट के पास पैसे बच जाते और किसी और स्कीम में यूज़ किए जा सकते थे. If we would have had a financially efficient system or infrastructure, which we are moving towards now, then that money could have been used for other purposes, other benefits. No proper data of BPL and APL. Your BPL, APL cards, their signing or their approval, that still depends on how many contacts you have. So yes, BPL and APL cards, there is a very big leakage there. Very big lacuna. Now moving on to body paragraph part 2. Enumerate the steps taken by government to address the same. So what are the steps taken by government to address the leakage or to address the loopholes in PDS? First of all, never start your second body part straight away. Always write the reformative steps that were taken by government to address these issues are as follows. Yes, direct benefit transfer, that's right. Point of selling machines are there in your fair price shops. And now, GPS systems are being used to track the trucks also which are carrying your food grains. So digitization is helping us a lot. Fortification of food grains, that is right. If your wheat and rice, especially rice, is not as much nutritious as it used to be before, fortification of rice is being carried out. One nation, one ration card. There are so many migrant laborers, migrant workers who have their families in some other state, but they're working in some other state. So they leave their ration cards behind with their families. So at least their families could afford these food grains from ration shops. But these people who were migrants, they had to purchase expensive ration. So one nation, one ration card. That if one family member is staying outside in some other state, he can take his share of ration in that other state and his family members can take at back home the rest of the ration that is available for them. Alright. Automation of fair price shops, very important here. By installation of point of scale devices for electronic recording of sale transactions and authentication of beneficiaries at FPS. With the help of thumbprints or fingerprints, beneficiaries are recognized. Nobody else can take ration in their name. Second, direct benefit transfer. Cash is being provided. Cash is being provided where food grains are not available or food subsidies are provided. Third, Aadhaar seeding in PDS so that identification can be assured to weed out duplicate and ineligible beneficiaries. So first of all, government came up with this Aadhaar, creation of Aadhaar. Then finally, when Aadhaar cards were created for most of the population, then they finally linked it with the PDS system. That now we'll be able to identify which individual is having a good house and can afford food grains from the commercial shops and which people they require those BPL cards. Finally, deletion of ration cards. The old ration cards, they have been deleted. Exclusion and inclusion errors, they have been tackled. Then one nation, one ration card scheme. Through this facility, while a migrant beneficiary is enabled to get his or her ration through portability in the destination state, at the same time, the family back home is also allowed to get part of the entitled ration to support itself. Food Corporation of India, FCI reforms, Shanta Kumar Committee. It was brought in to look into the functioning of FCI and reforms were suggested. You can also use this as a way forward that Shanta Kumar Committee reforms should be brought into picture. End-to-end computerization of food grain procurement, storage, transportation and distribution. All this computerization is being done. So now, these are the points. Improving logistics and warehouse infrastructure, that also has been done and you can talk about that as a separate point, point number 8. What do you want to write in conclusion now? Will you give a way forward or will you summarize? What do you think should be an ideal way conclusion for this answer? All right. So I think a synthesis of summary and way forward that could do that, and also appreciate the government. Whenever you talk about government initiatives, write at least one line appreciating the government. PDS is one of the biggest welfare programs of the government. Appreciation of PDS, helping farmers sell their produce at remunerative prices as well as the poorer sections of society to buy food grains at affordable rates. All right. So yes, its effectiveness can be enhanced. Again, way forward. With technology-based solutions. Now, technology-based solutions have already been implemented. So just say, I know that they have been implemented and their benefits are evident in many of the states. So more of them should be implemented. Its effectiveness can be enhanced with technology-based solutions, as is evident from some of the states' successes towards the same. All right. It can be further strengthened by increased public participation. If you have to check the quality of food grains available in a fair price shop, how will you check it? How will you check it for the entire country? There is something called social audit, that some groups from that local area, they visit the shops and then they carry out all the inspection. Social audits can be carried out. Increase public participation through social audits. If social audits cannot be done, if people are not cooperative, have participation of self-help groups. Self-help groups are very successful in our country and they are present in every nook and corner of the country. Cooperatives, cooperative societies are there. They can be used to inspect PDS and to regulate it. And NGOs, very important. Civil society actors. In ensuring the transparency of PDS system at ground level. Not just transparency, but quality of services or food grains. So we used just 2 lines to give conclusion because our body parts, they were 2 and they were very long. So we have answered this question in 600 words. Any more ideas that you have for the conclusion here, then we'll wind up this session. All right, any inputs coming in? All right, Dark Rose. Introduction of millets can solve nutrition deficiency in PDS. Yes, you can say that yes, fortification of food products, that is one thing. But more and more inclusion of millets, compulsory inclusion of millets, that can solve the loopholes in PDS. What else? Any other solution that anybody has? All right. So that's about it. I'll see you with another discussion tomorrow on ESI. Tomorrow would be our 3rd lecture for ESI, Economic and Social Issues. And you can contact us for any doubts at 8146-207-241. Or you can also email us at hello@edutap.co.in. Stay tuned to our channel. We're coming up with a lot of initiatives. And I hope that all of you succeed, all of you watching this video succeed, all of you subscribe to our channel, you succeed. It's your success that motivates us to work harder. All right. So all the very best. I'll see you tomorrow with another discussion right at 3 p.m.